Good evening and a warm, warm hello to all of you, and welcome to joining us for this quarterly conversation responding to the question, is this sacred dance? My name is Wendy Morell, and I am currently the president of the Sacred Dance Guild living in Ottawa, Canada. This series, which will take place 4 times between February 2021 and February 2022, was created by the Sacred Dance Guild in February 2021 on the occasion of our 63rd birthday, which took place on February 10th. During this year, we wanted to celebrate the journey of discovery that has taken place over our 63-year history. The Sacred Dance Guild is a nonprofit charitable trust in the United States with members the world over. We are dedicated to advocating for dance as a sacred expression in its many forms, its many faiths, and its many spiritual understandings. In our statement of values, which is accessible on our website, we say, the Sacred Dance Guild has been dedicated to sharing and celebrating dance as a sacred art since 1958. One people, one planet, and one heart in the dance of life. We embrace dance as a universal language of the soul. We embrace a network of people creating a world of peace, harmony, and justice through movement. We embrace people sharing dance anywhere in the world, moving to connect heart, mind, body, and spirit to the divine, alone or in community. We honor and celebrate the sacred in dance and movement across all cultures, all faiths, and all beliefs. We envision a world community committed to living life with compassion, creativity, and in service of a greater good. We encourage and invite you all to read the whole statement, which you can find on our website. We know through conversations with many people over the years that there are many different ways of understanding that concept of sacred dance. And we wanted to provide an opportunity for a dancing dialogue as we uncover and reflect on what does that mean to different people in different places with different backgrounds and different experiences. Hence this series called, Is This Sacred Dance? We begin here in February 2021 with our first moderated panel with 5 invited guests responding to that question. For each of these conversations, we will shine the light on a diversity of understandings. This first panel, taking place here on February 20th, 2021, as part of our weekend mini festival called Weaving Webs of Light, we're going to focus on the areas of social justice, differing abilities, the environment, community, and ancestral dreaming. So, over to our moderator for this panel, Dawn Harris, who will take us on a journey of discovery. Enjoy the adventure.
Hello, everyone, and welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so delighted to be here and so delighted to have this incredible opportunity to hear from amazing women and dancers. Before I introduce them, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a sense of the format that we're going to follow for this. There will be a section at the beginning for introductions. So each of the panelists will have an opportunity to introduce themselves and their dance movement. At the end of their introduction, each will share a gesture that resonates with them when reflecting on peace, harmony, and healing. Then there will be a discussion period, and during which I will pose a couple of questions to the entire panel, and they will either respond individually and or interactively in a dialogue. We'll just see how that unfolds. And that will be a longer period of time. And then following that, there will be a question and answer period. And so we're going to ask you to put your questions in the chat, and we will hold them for that period of time. And then one of our technical people will be asking questions that you posted at the end of that time. It will mean that only the people in the live session will be able to ask questions while the panelists are online. For those participating in the recorded session, you will hear the questions that were asked in the live session. However, to give you a chance to ask questions, we encourage you to also post your questions in the chat, which we will later provide to panelists by email. And then once we've collected the responses, we will send the questions and responses to all participants. So now, without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure and honor to introduce these amazing women. First, I'm going to introduce Leah Mann, and this is in no particular order. Leah has utilized dance and embodied practices for social justice, social healing, and transformation for over 30 years. She co-founded Moving in the Spirit and Layla Vision, where she is also its co-director, combining original kinetic musical sculpture, live music, and dance simultaneously to create radically accessible and evolutionary art that elicits delight. Her equity and anti-racism art acts to remember the communal body, amplifying the value of its diversity in our collective genius. Next, we have Susan Biani. Susan is a Sacred Dance Guild member whose love of dance nourishes her spirituality. Her 38-year-old daughter, Rebecca, loves to dance from her wheelchair, supported by friends and professional dancers. Susan's goal is to build the community's capacity to welcome people with disabilities with all the gifts and talents that they bring. Next, I'd like to introduce Diane Eno. Diane is an international artist, environmental educator, performer, scholar, and artistic director of Diane Eno Environmental Dance Works, known for annual performances on the summit of Mount Monadnock. I don't think I got that right. Monadnock, the world's second most climbed mountain. Designing and implementing numerous programs for children and adults, her accomplishments include integrating dance, Native American Sign Language, and natural environments. Artist in residence at Acadia National Park, founder director of the Satori Center for Nature and Forest Therapy, certified forest bathing guide, and Usui Reiki master, a PhD in environmental dance studies. And next, we welcome Laura Shannon. Laura is considered one of the grandmothers of the worldwide sacred circle dance movement. She has been researching and teaching traditional women's ritual dances in 20 countries for over 30 years. Originally trained in dance movement therapy and intercultural studies, Laura has been on the faculty of the Findhorn Foundation Sacred Dance Department since 1998, is founding director of the Athena Institute for Women's Dance and Culture, and has published many articles and blogs about women's sacred dance. Lastly, but not least, I'm introducing Alaya Danu. Alaya, a woman of mixed heritage, is an author, a creative artist, sacred dancer, and priestess of her maternal ancestral tradition. She endeavors to illuminate the nature and importance of ancestral dreaming, its ability to enhance the academic and scholarly inquiry, and bring awareness to a matrilineal tradition that has not been explored or discussed within the fields of dream research and women's spirituality. So welcome to all of you. We will start, we're going to just follow the same order. And Leah, over to you now to introduce yourself and your dance.
Thank you so much. I am coming to you in huge gratitude from the sacred land of the Shababs in the Salish Sea, the place called Swatufted, or now Vashon Island. Sobono Okamoto Mika Kara Okashi Itadakimashita. Haha no Okamoto Toshie San Kara Okoshi Itadakamashi. Vengo a ustedes por mija. Kairos talisman y la esperanza de un futuro mejor por todos. Please share the slides, Jessica. And I'm just going to talk over this. That made my script go away, so I got to go over. Go ahead and start it. Let's see. I'll just let that run and not talk over it because I can't see my script. These are just past social justice actions. And I wanted to share some visuals of these with you. And I guess what I want to pose is, who has to do social justice dances? Who are the people that have to do social justice dances? They're sometimes called the people's movement. Justice is what love looks like in public. All the people having a voice, having representation. Thank you, Jessica. So I'm coming to you today to speak about dance for justice. The ghost dances, the circle shout dances, the capoeira dances, the gumboot dances, the buto dances, the Mardi Gras baby doll dances, the dance that say their name with tap dancing, the dances that move equity forward, the dances that dance grief and anger toward empowerment and praise, the dances that move the status quo and systemic oppressions from revolution, as in turning from current velations, the veils or the frames, to revelation, the aha of the kinder, more just framing of our views, as Alvin Ailey did in his seminal work, Revelations. I'm coming in remembrance of the universal golden rule that exists in every single culture and religion, that is a statement of social justice. I'm coming to you for all the next dances that help bring inclusion of all the people into the sacred narrative, all the people into the sacred narrative. So for the past 35 years, I've utilized dance as a tool for liberation with people of all ages and cultures. And I can't imagine talking to you about dance without inviting you to dance. So I just want to invite you to do this simple movement, which is take a deep breath in and exhale. And on your next inhalation, just rock to one sits bone. And on your exhalation, just rock to the other sits bone. And so we're here dancing together. I want to invite you to bring your index finger to your thumb and place one hand on your heart for the things that you can receive wholeheartedly. And then with your other hand, same gesture, just place that on your thigh for the things that you want to hold with curiosity and kindness outside of your heart that you can observe. I think that's an example of social justice, the best boundary where I can love myself and I can hold love for everything else in kindness outside of myself. So thank you for doing this dance with me together apart. I want to share two pandemic-made social justice dances. The one is a new Bonadori to honor the ancestors and those who have died of COVID and those who have died of unnecessary police violence. And then there'll be a second excerpt, which is a dance for the asylum seekers separated at the border, especially the moms and the girls and my family. So Jessica, please share the videos. Thank you.
Mate mate para mate para sam mate Bodhisattva
Los pájaros anidan en mis brazos, en mis hombros, detrás de mis rodillas. Entre los senos tengo codornices. Los pájaros se creen que soy un árbol. Una fuente se creen que soy los cisnes. Bajan y beben todos cuando hablo. Las ovejas me pisan cuando pasan y comen en mis dedos los gorriones. Se creen que yo soy tierra, las hormigas. Y los hombres se creen que no soy nada.
The birds nest in my arms,
Los pájaros
on
anidan
my
en mis
shoulders,
brazos,
behind
en
my
mis
knees.
hombros, detrás de mis rodillas.
Between my breasts I have quails.
Entre los senos tengo
The birds
codornices.
think I am a tree.
Los pájaros se creen
The
que
swans
soy
think I'm a
un
fountain.
árbol.
They all come
Una
down and
fuente se
drink when I
creen que
talk.
soy los cisnes.
The sheep nudge me going
Bajan y
by,
beben
and the
todos
sparrows
cuando
eat from
hablo.
my fingers.
Las ovejas me
The
pisan cuando
ants think I
pasan
am the earth,
y comen en mis dedos los
and some
gorriones.
think I
Se
am
creen que
nothing.
soy la tierra, las hormigas, y los hombres se creen que no soy nada.
Ellos no saben. Soy la divina.
That was beautiful, Leah. Thank you.
Thank you. So
And
I've
your
shared my gesture already. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks so much. Next, we invite Susan to talk about sacred dance, her sacred dance. You're on mute.
I'm very honored to be invited on this very incredible, panel. And because Rebecca's uses a wheelchair and she's not able to come today, I want to show you a clip of her dancing with one of her dance partners, Sarah Ann, who is a grade 12 student. Even though Rebecca cannot speak and is totally dependent on others, we learned early on that she is here on this earth to be a peacemaker, bringing people together as one, knowing that we all have gifts and we need everyone's gifts to be shared. Her love of dance was obvious through her great joy in watching people dance and when people twirled her in her wheelchair with the music so that she could dance too. She danced for many years with a dance group called the Spirit Movers from L'Arche Daybreak. She had many dance partners at that time, and each one of them was told by someone at one point in their life that they weren't good enough to be a dancer. These are professional dancers I'm talking about. Because of that, they stopped dancing until someone introduced Rebecca to them. They loved creating ways of dancing with her that showed people that everyone who wants to dance can. The dance becomes deeply spirit-filled as the partners connect in beautiful ways. When Sarah Ann's class came for the retreat at the Spirit Movers and at L'Arche, Rebecca's dance partner, Erica, encouraged her to co-create a dance that she could share with Rebecca. They were invited to many conferences to share their dance. Sarah Ann was graduating that year and she was chosen to give the valedictorian speech, and she chose to speak about how much her friend Rebecca has taught her about dance and life. Her dance partners felt truly liberated and recognized the power of Rebecca to transform those who thought they couldn't dance, so they kept introducing them to her and to other people. They danced in high schools and at Massey Hall, which is a famous concert hall in Toronto, in churches for the Pope at World Youth Day. They put on retreats at L'Arche for high school students, and that led them to dancing at the Jubilee Mass in front of 17,000 people in Toronto. 2 films have been created about Rebecca's life, so that Rebecca's purpose in being on this earth can be shared with many. The first film is called Revel in the Light, and the second one is called Dance in the Shadow. They have been shown in over 80 countries at many international conferences and at a meeting of the OECD as well as the United Nations as they were developing the Convention on Rights for Persons with Disabilities. You could see them for free on her website, and this information is in your package, but it's www.rebeccabiani.com. And you can buy the DVD Dance in the Shadow, which includes Revel in the Light on the same disc with other dances. Where you could buy that is Inclusion Press at inclusion.com. And unfortunately, I didn't get that into the into the package, but you could also connect with me. When Rebecca graduated from high school, she volunteered in many places, and one of those places was Mustard Seed in downtown Toronto, run by the Sisters of St. Joseph. It was a drop-in center for the homeless as well as others who, due to poverty, needed a place to experience a loving community. There was one particular man who came regularly, who refused to participate in anything and just sat in the corner by himself. It appeared as though he did not feel comfortable being with people. Sister Gwen, who led the program, said to me that the only day that this man participated at all with a smile on his face was when Rebecca was there. One day, one of Rebecca's dance partners joined Rebecca at Mustard Seed to share some dancing. Lo and behold, this gentleman got up from his chair and danced with them. He said, "If you can dance in a wheelchair, I can dance too," and he was proud of it. Again, this is another situation of many where Rebecca's unconditional love for all and her vulnerability in needing others for everything shifts people's perspectives, those who are disenfranchised and those who observe the transformation. Do I still have time?
No, sorry. The time is up, but we would love to see your gesture.
Oh, yes. Okay. Because it's all about connection. Back into my heart and then send it out again.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much. I just felt I could feel the joy and the awe emanating from your daughter in that first video that you played. Oh my goodness, beautiful. Thank you so much. Now we will turn it over to Diane to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm so very happy to be at this awesome event and to be reconnecting with some old, not so old, Sacred Dance Guild friends. And I can tell you about my journey as a dancer. As a little girl, I began as one who went to weekly ballet classes, loving every minute of it, but couldn't wait to get home to rip off my and quit running into the woods and dance on a rock. Little did I know, many years later, I would find the most magical place in the area where I live in southern Hampshire. You'll look at that now. Where I would end up from dance works there for the ensuing 25 years. It's been an evolutionary process with the hopes of really finding a way to deepen our connection with Mother Earth through dance movement and dance expression. And that evolution of my own personal artistic vision finally brought me through experiences through Sacred Dance Guild, where I continued to hone and try out workshops and expand my vision with willing spirits who were just amazing, especially on top of a windy mountaintop, bare rock, exposed to the elements. And all of those lovely experiences finally brought me to academia, where I did doctoral research and found a way to really deepen that process. And I'm going to read you an excerpt from my thesis that explains how to get to that place. I write, I speak through this research about the phenomenon of the dancer researchers' body minds. This is a deliberately crafted term designed to demonstrate and remind us that in the practice and art of environmental dance, there can be no separation of the mind or the body. In fact, the mind is considered to be fully embodied, and the body is cognition in action. The body-mind is considered a unified, holistic state of being, and this is foundational in the training of each environmental dancer in my company. Since the locus of environmental dance must be an embedded one, in the midst of the natural landscape, where there must also be an established ongoing dialogue between dancer researcher and the land itself, then the landscape, earth, nature, scale continuum is an essential feature of what I call the Satori loop. The Satori loop, by the way, was the emergent theory that came out of my grounded theory research in my doctoral studies. That term is purposely selected to connote the iterative hermeneutic process that takes place within the research site and within the environmental dance experience and or performance as well. The environmental dancer researcher reads the landscape of the mountain summit as if it were a sacred text. What culminates the Satori loop model is the inclusion and infusion of spirit. Because I have intentionally abandoned the traditional body, mind, spirit trinity as a remnant of the Cartesian worldview, in my Satori loop model, my aim is to suggest instead that the spirit realm or the divine realm, in Kreider's terminology, she was a very intuitive artist who was very much in agreement with this kind of reshifting of that trinity, does not belong exclusively to humans. It belongs equitably to both humans and to nature. True spirit within the loop can only be actualized by the subtle energy generated through the active dialogue between dancer researcher and the land. Thus, human engagement with nature in both the environmental dancer and in my work as guiding forest bather, which is also called Shinrin-yoku. I will talk to you about this later, my forest bathing, but there's a connection there that really wants to refocus the body mind as a whole piece, the earth and the spirit, and they follow in that order in a kind of an iterative loop. And that's what came out of the research that I did with my dance company on Monadnock for my doctoral work. So it's been an evolutionary process, and it always seeks to go deeper and deeper and deeper into that connection with the earth. And one of the more memorable times on Mount Monadnock was during a piece that we actually do each and every performance. And it involves the opening of the arms overhead in unison. And one time when we did this, it was a very cloudy, windy, gloomy kind of day on the summit, actually with raindrops falling on us. The sun actually emerged at that moment. And it was just such a powerful feeling of connection that I knew that the work needed to be taken to a much deeper level. And going the academic route really gave me the opportunity to spend well, it was nearly 8 years, to really go that deep. And it all came from many of the things that I had presented to all of my Sacred Dance Guild friends in our various workshops. So that is my story. I've always been an environmental dancer, even as I, through the years, studied ballet and modern dance and jazz and all of the other forms of dance. But deep down, it's this really deep connection to the earth that I enjoy most in my work.
Thank you very much, Diane. These images on the summit are just exquisite. Would you share your gesture with us, please?
Oh, yes, yes. This is Native American Sign Language. I use that a lot too in my dance pieces. And my gesture goes like this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we will let Laura introduce herself from Greece. That's a real background, by the way, people.
Yes, you'll see the sunlight fade and the twilight come. Thank you so much, Dawn and Wendy. It's such an honor to be part of this panel. And I'm so moved by my three colleagues, what you've all said so far. I can barely find words to begin to speak myself, but I'll trust that the inspiration will come. And one of the things that's so exciting for me about listening to you three who've spoken already is that my great passion for the sacred dance of community going back to Neolithic times in Eastern Europe and the Near East, when community dancing in circles began to be expressed in art, so that we know it began to take on a greater importance for the human community in connection with agriculture and the sacred earth that was seen as nurturing us. So I will talk about that in a moment, but I just want to say that three of the really important aspects of this ancient circle dance tradition were really at the heart of what my colleagues shared. So the social justice side that inspires Leah's dancing in community is very much about creating a society of peace where people can resolve conflicts and have that respect for the other in order to continue to live together in harmony. And then it's also very much a tradition where everyone must dance. There's a place for everyone. And I have seen people not in wheelchairs so much in the Greek villages, Susan, but certainly elderly people tottering up to the dance circle on crutches and before long flinging them away and leading the dance line and really manifesting not just, of course, the healing power of dance, which we all know about, but that even the elderly and crippled have a chance to join and lead the dance circle. And then, of course, dancing in nature, dancing in sacred space, as Dion's incredibly moving and beautiful work, that's something very ancient. So, Jessica, I wonder if you would show us the first of my slides. And if you go to some of the earliest human art there that we know of, this is from Iraq and also in Iran, Syria, the whole Near East and the Levant, where agriculture kind of began, depictions of circle dancing also took root at this time and spread through the Near East and Eastern Europe along with the spread of agriculture. So I even studied art history. I did not know until Joseph Garfinkel's book, Dancing at the Dawn of Agriculture, put together lots of these pot shards and showed that the most important artistic motif beginning 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 years ago in the Neolithic time was of people dancing in a circle. So Jessica, if we could see the next slide, please. This is something that when I traveled through, began my travels through Eastern Europe in 1987, I found that people are still dancing in circles to celebrate what gives life to their community. Lots of connections to agriculture. But here, they're dancing in front of the church, so the dance is still something sacred or spiritual or religious or meaningful in that transcendent way. And the next slide, please, Jessica. It's not just for people in front of the church who've dressed up for it and other people are watching. It also takes place where everyone must join the circle. Everyone must be a part of it. This is the Tranos Horos in northern Greece, where the whole village dances on this fertile field just outside of their little town of Vlasti. And the next one, please. So as Dawn said in the introduction, I've spent my life researching these dances out of a longing to find sacred community with ancient roots, and then teaching them to people who are not from those cultures, yet who can be touched and inspired by the universality of coming together in a circle to dance with the body, with live music as much as possible, and in a way which is openly spiritual, but where there's no dogma. People can come together from all religions, all faiths, all ethnic groups, all ideologies. People certainly would not vote the same way if you got to talking with them, and yet here are people joining hands, lighting their candles and dancing together. This is at the Findhorn Foundation Sacred Dance Festival, which happens every July, or used to happen every July. And our next slide, please. We also dance outside in nature as much as possible with live music, and simply to dance on the earth, to stand upright as the bridge to the sky. The tree of life as a symbol, but also actual trees as sacred places. This is very important in these dances. It's in the dance patterns, it's in the dance songs, it's in the embroideries on the costumes people wear. That's my husband Konstantis playing music, by the way. And our last slide, please, Jessica. We can't always dance outside, but we have seminars all over the world where we dance together in sacred space. And again, we're coming from all kinds of cultures, and we're learning dances from peoples who aren't our own, not as a kind of cultural appropriation or trying to become something that we're not, but to touch on this universal quality of the sacredness of community when we connect with each other and create this circle in which something beautiful can happen, some healing can happen, some binding of community despite our differences can bring us together. So that's the end of the pictures, and I can share my gesture with you.
Yes, thank you.
When people dance, they often have they're holding hands like this at heart level. But if you don't have a dance circle and you just hold your hands in this gesture of invocation and blessing, I'd like to invite you to do that with me for a moment. We're not joining hands in the dance, but we can bless each other with this very ancient stance, wishing each other well, blessing the earth, blessing our brothers and sisters in the human family. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's I think I was really struck by the sense of timeliness in terms of the bringing together of community as a for peace and for sharing light and connection. That was beautiful. Thank you. And now I will turn it over to Elia to introduce yourself and your movement.
Thank you. So my name is Alaya Danu. I am located in Los Angeles. My focus on sacred dance comes through my topic of interest for my dissertation, which is the transmission of ancestral memory that's experienced through dreams. It's the way I've lived my life through guidance of of the ancestors, and this is ancient ancestors that I'm referring to, not necessarily recently departed. And the focus with the sacred dance came through to me as a means of offering. It's something that has been done in the distant past. You see it what I can most closely relate it to today are the temple dances of India, in particular neoclassical Odissi. I do have ancestry from there, so sometimes I do have ancestors of the Mahadis come to me and reveal the movement vocabulary. But with regards to the philosophy, it's very, very different. The mythology that underscores the sacred dance that I do is very different from what you would find in neoclassical Odissi dance. So the movement vocabulary is similar, but the point and purpose, the philosophy that underlies it is very different. So I'm not going to go into great detail because I'd like for you to see a little bit of it. So Jessica, if you could go ahead and play the video.
Is Alaya Danu. Alaya is an intriguing dancer. She was trained in Odissi in her dreams for 18 years. Possibly in one of her past lives, she was a Mahari. She connected with Shibranjani in 2014, and I was so spellbound when I saw her moves. And it was very difficult for me to believe that she had never learned Odissi before from an actual teacher, and I was her first teacher. And I didn't really need to teach her much because she already knew, the nuances of Odissi. So since 2014, she has practiced with us on and off, but she's also been traveling all over the globe. Today, she joins us from California, where she's currently a PhD student. Alaya will be presenting her own choreography, Saundarya Lahari. Well, I should say that, this is a piece that she learned in her dreams. Thank you, Alaya, for participating with us today.
Okay.
I do want to reiterate that I don't practice Odyssey. So no matter what teacher or workshop I go to, that's how they see it, and that's understandable. The technique is, the way that I've been told, is a bit more fluid in my dreams, as opposed to how it's taught today in some of the main lineages, where it's a bit more structured and very specific. The postures are a bit deeper. The only reason why I've gone to an Odyssey class is because my ancestors insisted that I refine my movements in the sense of understanding how to integrate the prayer to the movement, because each movement means something in particular. So when it comes to, doing sacred dance, I haven't been doing public performances because I haven't been given the blessings to do so on a large scale. But from time to time, if it's a small group or someone is seeking blessings, or for their path to be clear, they would say, could you dance for me tonight? Or this is what's going on. Could you provide an offering of dance? And this is pretty much how it's been taught to me with regards to what the dance is for and why it's so important. Do I desire to express this a bit more in the future? Absolutely. But it would be something that I would teach with regards to the mythology that was revealed before the movements in my dreams. So I just want to say that even though the similarities are in movement, is there, it's the meaning and the origin and the philosophy that's very, very, very different. And so before I end with that, one of my favorite movements that I would like to share with you is one of releasing a certain prayer or a certain way of adoration to the heavens. And so we start with Anjali, with your hands at your heart, and it's like a lotus flower moving through the water. So it's as you move up, your hands open out into a blossom. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Alaya. That was amazing. And thank you for sharing with us. It seems your work seems very transcendent in so many ways. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And now we are going to go into the dialogue section. And let me just, I'm going to pose the first question. If I can get my screen to move. There we go. Nope. All right. So the first question that we would like to ask you to talk about is, in what ways is your dance sacred? Or what makes your dance sacred? Who would like to start?
I will.
Okay, thank you, Susan.
Susan?
Who's going? Susan, go ahead.
Okay. I decided to ask Rebecca's friends and dance partners because I thought that was more appropriate. And so one of her friends her name is Grace, and she answered question number 1, what makes your dance sacred? She said, Rebecca's story of dance reflects the trust and dependence of the vulnerable leaning into the strength of the stronger, reflecting our partnership with the sacred. And then her friend Anna, who was in some of the photos, said, Rebecca's relationships through partnering make the dance sacred. When she dances, not only do the dances themselves usually tell a story of relationship with one another or with God, but the way in which she dances to tell another story simultaneously about the relationship she has with her dance partner. In the revealing of ourselves and our relationships with one another, who are beings of the divine and with a sacred spirit, we are sharing something quite intimate and sacred. So
thank you.
I'll give that to them.
I would agree very much with the intimacy factor in my work. The minute you step into the site, and I mean stepping into the site is when you begin to actually engage as a dancer and drop mundane pedestrian movements and engage as a dancer. I'm struck by the feeling of depth of being drawn into the earth itself. And so it becomes less of me and more of us, where the site becomes the actual co-dancer. I liken it to contact improv, where it's not me, a dancer, just arbitrarily plopping up on a rock and going through a series of choreographed movements, which is fine. But this is much deeper, and it transcends regular dance and takes you to that deeper place. And it just keeps drawing you in. The more you feel that, the more you want to feel it. And it becomes a duet or a contact improv with the earth itself or whatever site you're dancing with.
I'll go. For me, what makes this dance sacred is that I'm a conduit. And so in giving a prayer, it's not so much about this is what I want to say. It's a matter of what needs to be said, communicating with ancestral realms or with the divine realms of that which is unseen, and making sure that my vessel is clear, that it's not a mental thing. It's I'm in the flow, I'm connecting this space with this space or this space with this request. I'm the conduit, and ensuring that I'm in the right space to get the message across, because it's not a dance for me. Not to say I don't dance for myself, I do, but I dance mostly for for the realms and those around me that request it. So that's what makes it sacred.
I can go. So for social justice stances, I think there is an intent, a hope that inspires the movement for equity and inclusion in the sacred narrative. Some dances can be defiant, and that can still be sacred. Some can be angry, and that is still sacred. There seem more of a psalm if you put it in a Christian context, the social justice stances, but they're crying out with intention. Like, why is that movement being done? For the hope of something better, for more inclusion. It's not just out of nowhere. There's total intent in the dance like that. Even in my professional work where I'm playing music and writing kinetic musical sculptures, if I am centered on this is a prayer and I am having an intention in my action, and even having the wherewithal to send that energy out to people that are observing, that moves it from performance to more of a pure performance that's, as Elias said, like where you're a conduit. And so I even want to bring into I have a friend who does pole dancing, and she is totally sure that her intent is sacred and that she's doing sacred dance movement. And I want to say, yes, it's all in there with the intent, if your intent is there.
I would agree with everything that you all have said. When we come together in these ancient circle dances with their roots going back thousands of years, we connect to the sacredness of simply being aware in the present moment, stepping into the circle with sacred intent, to connect to the earth and to the heavens, to connect with ourselves and one another in the service of building a community which will be sustainable, which will last and be strong, not by defining ourselves in opposition to those that we cast as other, but by affirming connections with those who maybe we have some differences, but the dance is stronger than that. And there's sacredness because of the ancientness of these dance forms. We connect with our ancestors in the human family going back through time, through space. They're not our own ancestors, maybe, but it's that universality of the human family, the sacredness of wanting life to go ahead, the sacredness through connecting with the past of honoring the future generations, those who will come after us, for whom we will be the ancestors, and on whose behalf we carry the sacred responsibility to live in a sustainable way and pass things on intact, whether it's the earth or our society or the lineage of transmission of certain dance or song or textile traditions that all go together. And as I said before, for me, the most sacred thing about the way we are dancing these dances all over the world in communities that consist of people who have all kinds of differences, the sacredness of overcoming those differences and focusing on our power to make the choice to connect, this can build a culture of peace. This can create a sustainable future for humans and for all other living beings on our planet. And for me, that is the holiest, most sacred task that we all have to take on now in this time.
Would anyone like to add anything? I heard some really key words, pure formance, intention, community and connection, and universality and sustainability. Is there anything anyone would like to add?
I would like to say some more. As people were talking, I was thinking about the way in our humanity we try and make sense of things and we compartmentalize and we want to put them into a category and say, and even in spiritual traditions, that there's this binary, it's good or it's bad. And there's a diversity and a spectrum that's so alive all the way through. And so I think this conversation just brings to the forefront that there is a spectrum of what is sacred dance. Mm-hmm. And it may not be your sacred dance, but it's still allowed to exist right there.
Thanks, Leah. Anyone else? Okay, I will move on to the second question then. In what ways do you use your body or the body as an instrument for peace, harmony, healing, and or connection?
I could go again.
Thanks, Susan.
It was the same two people that were answering. So Grace says, Rebecca's dance with her partner reflects community and harmony as dancers physically support each other and interact in beautiful movements, symbolizing, representing spiritual, emotional relationship and connection. And Anna says, Rebecca's dance would not happen without harmony and collaboration. Her relationships with her dance partners are images of harmony and peace, and offer others who witness the dance an example with which to be with others in the world. That's what I have here. Thank you.
Thanks.
I will speak again.
Thanks,
again, the minute you step into that sacred space where you're no longer the pedestrian, but you step onto that piece of earth or that outcropping of granite, you feel that you are the conduit and therefore the voice for the earth upon which the dance unfolds. And again, I like to emphasize that it really is a collaboration. It's not me dancing on Mother Earth as a stage or as a prop, but it is a deep, deep collaboration. And it is one that connects you both to the roots of our ancestors and the roots of every living plant, tree, the heartbeat of every animal being on the earth, with the heavens and with Creator. So there's a lot going on. It's an amazing experience, and you just feel that you become the channel to give voice to the earth in that little space or that little site where the dance has been created and unfolds.
Thanks, Diane.
Guess I'll go. I find that in my travels, particularly when I find myself in nature, be it in the mountains, out in the desert, or the forest or the woods, there I get requests from nature. You know, can you offer a dance? Can you give us a dance? And no matter what's going on, if there are people walking around, it's like, okay, where do you want me to dance? And I do a call call to attention, and it's pretty much, you know, it's a really short movement sequence just to let the rest of the realms know, okay, I'm giving this offering. Come forth if you'd like to be present for it. So as a sacred dancer, it's never for myself. You know, I've danced professionally before in New York, and the distinction is very different. You know, so no matter where I go, it's like I have that awareness. Okay, there might be a request, and if there is, it's in a sense duty bound for me to do so, because it could also be healing for the land. Like if I don't know the history of that land, if there's been trauma or a lot of violence around in that particular area, it's, you know, it behooves me to honor that request. You know, I don't think about, well, why do they want the request? It's okay, this is something, there's something here that's being asked for that I can provide. So therefore I answer that call.
Thank you.
I can talk. What came to me to speak about was just the way that dance can be of service. And I knew early on in my life that my actions could be service, that I could be a conduit for service. I have an early memory of, I'm hyperactive, and I remember always being in the corner in school. You're not allowed to move, you're not allowed to move. And one day I was told I had to stay inside from PE because I just was too fidgety. And there was another student with me who just wasn't doing the work. She had a learning difference. And so the two people that probably needed PE the most were made to stay back in the classroom. And we were told we had to write sentences. So I wrote my sentences in my hyperactive way. And then I wrote my friend's sentences in a hyperactive way. And it was just this like way I could use my body in service. And I just have carried that forward, that little thread. Like we can be conduits, all of us, to just help include people and let their voices be heard.
Thanks, Leah. Laura, yeah.
For me, the way that we use our bodies for peace and harmony and healing and community, it's the simple act of taking our place in the circle and holding hands with others, not just with our friends, not just with people who think the way we do, eat what we do, go to the church we do, vote the way we do, plant our tomatoes the way we do, but to hold hands with everybody, because we're creating something that is a culture of peace. We're creating a circle where we choose to affirm what unites us instead of to be beaten by what divides us. And it's been so moving for me to see this in action in my decades of research, of traveling around to where there is still a living circle dance tradition. And very briefly, I want to tell you, in a little village in northern Greece on the slopes of Mount Olympus, I was very impressed that this village, they had like a fruit packing cooperative where they worked together to sell their fruit at very high prices to the luxury market. They weren't in competition with each other. And in the time of the economic crisis, they were making this amazing public building project, but this was at the time when there was no money in Greece. And I asked how they were able to afford building this big wall, a retaining wall, between their church and the road below it on the slope. And they said, well, everyone's out of work here, so we've got labor, and the guy with the rock quarry, he's donated the rock. The guy who owns the petrol station has given the petrol, and the people who have the trucks are transporting the rocks, and the women of the village take turns to cook the food for these 30 people every day. It's about every 6 weeks per family, that they just donate what they have, and that's how we're building our wall. And I said, how come the rest of the country isn't doing this to solve their problems? And the guy said, it's because we still dance together. In our village, every Sunday after church, we dance in front of the church. That's that photo you saw earlier. And he said, you know, life in a small village is tough with your neighbors and your relatives. You get upset, you hurt each other's feelings, feuds start, and in other villages, those feuds go on and on for generations because they stopped dancing. But we, no matter how mad I am at my brother-in-law or my neighbor, when I take his hand and we're dancing together, you overcome all that because you're doing something that's stronger than all of that, that's older than all of that, and that will last longer than all of that if we choose to do it. So that's how we literally create peace and harmony and community with our bodies when we step into the circle together.
Thanks, Laura. I see a lot of nodding heads.
Kind of wish we did that in our villages, huh?
Did you want to make another comment about this before we move to the question and answers? Because I'm seeing a number of questions coming in our chat, but there is a little time if anybody would like to say anything more, add anything.
I couldn't help but catch in the chat box someone who said that she's let me just see if I can say it, that she's afraid that her vehicle is not strong enough to give a clear message. And I just want to say, here's where community dancing, we help each other, you know, and even if you're having a really bad day, you've got to show up for the dance circle because everyone is needed to be a part of that collective conduit of the blessing. And if you need to receive more, all you have to do is get to your feet and show up in the circle, and your friends will hold you. And you receive at the same time that you do your part to create the circle that gives that support. So there's never a question of someone not being strong enough or not being good enough. And particularly in the circle dance tradition, the elders are most honored as the lead dancers and the ones with the wisdom and the authority, which is such a contrast with the world of dance more in Western countries, where you kind of get too old to be seen as a dancer or you lose it as you age. It's the opposite. You gain your power and authority as a dancer with the passing years. And that's also, I think, a way to create a culture of peace, to draw on the wisdom of the elders and give them the honored place in the dance. And I just mentioned this because it isn't ever about being frail or weak or not good enough or not strong enough physically. My physical strength isn't what it was 40 years ago when I started dancing, but there's something else. There's something else, and it's part of being that collective service where it's not our own strength that we have to use to be the channel. We can surrender to being part of something larger, and that will give us the chance to be part of that strength. So that was, I'm trying to encourage Jennifer, who wrote that in the chat, to just dance, just dance your dance.
Any last comment? Okay, I think it's Jessica. I'm turning it over to you for the the questions from the chat. We'll open up the question and answer period.
All right, we have some great questions here. The first question I will ask is, when you dance, is there a sense of higher being that you are in communion with?
I would like to start with that one. Some of the choreographies that have been crafted were requested specifically by higher beings, that they would just come in and they would say, I would like a dance. And then I would say, okay. What music should I use? And guide me specifically on what the intent and purpose behind this dance is. And a good example is Padmasambhava, the Mahasiddha of India that took Buddhism to Tibet. When I was in Nepal, I just felt his presence, and he wanted me to choreograph one of his mantras, one of his prayers. So I get that often. And it always tickles me, because it's like, if left up to me, I wouldn't know what to create, because it's not for me. So I tend to either go into meditation and say what should be created, or a divine being will come in and ask specifically to create something and guide me through that process.
I can speak to this too. As an extreme introvert, I always have huge anxiety 35 years later of having to show up. So I'm always questioning, like, am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to? But the voice comes, and I show up, or I take the initiative to act on or move an action forward. What I know is that fear can inhibit, but courage, it's like just playing with, leaning in. It's like a swing. It's like I can swing in and lean in and assist something to happen, or I can lean back and find support and ask for support for any of the works that need to happen. I try and keep it light. So I have a mantra that I say, I am enough, I have enough, I do enough, and whatever else thinks of me is none of my business. And I call that the introvert, mared to step on into a situation to dance. I say things like, Shai Sarine, rise and shine, which is the palindrome of I don't know, dancers often say mared which means shit, when they step onto the stage. And one day my partner said, Shai Sarine, and we had a German tech person, and he was like, "Ooh, I do not want to hear that." And my partner realized that he had flipped rise and shine before he stepped on the stage. So we just carry that forward. Shai Sarine, rise and shine, the whole spectrum. And every day, I call guides to assist me, and they're placed in different places in my body. And I call them to help me move forward in the world. So prayerfully, intentionally, walk in this walk, dance in this dance.
Anyone else?
I would just like to say that in all of the dance research I've done in all these decades, I've seen that people of all different religious faiths have some kind of sacred community dance tradition. So there is a sense of higher being, but it's dance for any and all higher beings. Again, it's something universal that transcends dogmas and divisions which perhaps we've gotten used to giving more importance to. Dance is something that predates and transcends those divisions. And so my own sense of connecting with a higher being when I'm dancing is not just one higher being, but a universal, all-encompassing sense of the higher frequencies or higher powers of creation, which for me are immanent, embodied in nature rather than transcendent or separate from nature and the Mother Earth. And I think that the ancient dances also go back to a sense of the higher beings being embodied in the lower realms, like the earth and the rocks and the dirt, where the roots are nourished, that give us food, that give us life. There's it's the higher and the lower are one in a way. So that's a good question. But I also want to say that people who don't believe in a higher being dance in a way that they can find meaning for themselves, that doesn't have to be related at all to a kind of belief or faith system. And yet the meaning that dancing can have takes them outside of the purely secular realm. So it's good for our time.
Maybe we'll move to the next question.
All right, this is another great question. For those of you who dance mainly in groups, can you speak about dancing on your own or solo? And for those who dance mainly solo, can you please speak about a sacred moment dancing with a group?
I can speak to that. So our performances on the Nadnock encompass both solo work and group pieces. And in the group pieces, there is this elevated feeling of connectedness amongst the dancers. And I attribute that really to the way that we work. And that is, I'm going to reference back to what I mentioned about the Satori loop, kind of reconfiguring how you approach and engage with the earth as an environmental dance artist, instead of presupposing that you're the dancer and the ground beneath you is a support feature. It's more of an integrated process from the very beginning. So if you start from a place of being connected to Mother, then you can't help but being hugely connected to your co-dancers. And we all experience that as huge aha moments. After the performance is over, we'll have discussion and debrief just to go over the awesomeness of what we've just experienced together. And it's always a feeling of being just so connected. And it's not by mistake that we're all connected, whether we're dancing together at this point or we haven't seen each other for years. We all maintain that deep connection. And it's a very spiritual one, and it's a very dance-based one. You know, we all know and love each other as co-artists and co-dancers and co-human beings. As for the solo work, yeah, it's a little different, but the connection, again, emphasizes being one with the site, and you're collaborating with that site, with that outcropping of granite where your dance unfolds. And it's a feeling of not just performing, but you're co-performing, so that there's a give and take dialogue between the site and what is unfolding to the audience as they see you dance. So, you know, the audience may not see that connection or see the rock dancing, but it is felt by me as the soloist and by others in the company who are soloists. They feel that dance happening within the site itself.
Thanks, Diane. Anyone else?
I'll go.
Okay.
So I have done a lot of outreach work in communities, coming from dance is a birthright. Everybody should have the opportunity to dance. And so for the longest, I was like coming with that energy. But dance already exists in all these communities. And so pretty quickly it was like, well, I'm not offering in like something that doesn't already, like that we're sharing. And I have one story of going into a housing project and going, hey, does anybody want to dance? And like, come to this class and we'll exchange, where you show me your dances and I'll show you my dances, and we'll just play like that back and forth. And I remember one moment where some person in the housing project came and threatened me, going, who's this outsider? Who's this person here? And all the dancers just circled around me and said, she's with us. And it transformed my life. Like, that's what I get. My life is transformed when I dance with others. And those young women are now moms, and we're friends forever.
Okay, Jessica, next question, please.
Okay. So this is a question for Alaya, and it comes from Barbara, who would like to ask more about your dream life, if you're comfortable with sharing. And do you work with people, or is it your intention to work with people to help them connect to their ancestors and dancing in their dreams?
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Jessica. My dream life, it's distinctive from lucid dreaming. It's ancestral dreaming. So I just want to just state that there's a huge difference between the two. Lucid dreaming, as it's defined in Western thought, the Western perspective, is that you're aware in your dreams and you can make changes. If you don't like how it's going, you can change it. Ancestral dreaming does not work like that. You are aware that you're dreaming, but you don't start the dream. It starts for you. It could be an ancestor or an ancestral divinity or a higher being that's coming in to teach you what you need to be taught, tell you what you need to be told, and then your normal dreams continue. That's how it's happened for me. That's how it's always happened for me. I've lived my life according to what's been revealed to me, so I don't know how to live life any other way. And it's okay. I've come so far in this way. It's like this is just the only way that I know how to do and how to be. In the future, yes, I do intend to work with people. I haven't been given the foundation with regards to how to do so yet. So I don't look outside of myself on trying to develop ways on assisting people with connecting to their dreams and their ancestry. I go inside and I ask, I say, how do you want me to assist people with reconnecting? Because you know best. I really don't. And so when that happens, then definitely that is something that I will be offering. I can't say when, because I don't know when, but and also with regards to, it's the same with dance, with teaching dance. I know that at least at this point, I've been told to start organizing what they've been taught, what I've been taught, what they've taught me. So I know at least with teaching dance, that's a lot sooner than with teaching ancestral connection, because the concept of ancestor, to me, it transcends blood relation as well. So your ancestors are also those that are in your DNA genetically, but it's also those that, if you put reincarnation and consciousness into the mix, the concept of ancestors, that just really broadens your tree. So once I'm able to speak more about that in the ways in which I'm told to do so, then I'll know when I can start working with people with reconnecting ancestrally. But so the dance part is a lot closer to fruition than working with people to connect ancestrally through their ancestral dreams, because that is how in which I've grew up. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question, but I will say that as with the session that will happen, the recorded session that will happen later, I expect that we've got a lot of questions that have not been able to be asked. And so we will include those in the email that we send to each of you, and then send the responses out to all participants for all the questions that were asked. So Jessica, one more question.
Okay, and this last question is for Susan, and it comes from Wendy. Wendy knows that Rebecca is nonverbal, so we appreciate you adding your physical voice on her behalf. What do you think Rebecca would want to add to this conversation on Is This Sacred Dance?
Your mic is off.
Rebecca is pure love. Her day is a dance in that it doesn't matter who it is or what they're doing, even if it's something really horrible, she will smile and laugh and share her love, and it turns things around. And so for her, she just thinks she's normal. She thinks, I have support, because people like Rebecca aren't normally seen in society. And I think that's one of the biggest things. Sometimes people see Rebecca thinking, whoa, her life is so great, but it's so not usual. And so I think that's why people who meet her and make friends with her want to really ensure that her voice is heard. So I'm not sure if it's really touching that, but I'll just give you a very short story. In grade 8, there were a group of boys in her class that were coming from a housing complex where, there were shootings, and it was a really unfortunate place, and they felt very fearful, and they were always in the principal's office because they were getting into trouble. And all of a sudden, one day, the teacher noticed that whenever they were with Rebecca, they'd soften up because she needed them. And so they turned around, and they are now the most incredible young men that you could ever imagine. And I think back, and I used to say, well, how does she do that? And I think it's because she makes them feel worthy, and they don't feel worthy, because everybody's putting them down. And she loves them unconditionally, whatever they're doing. And so that, I don't know how that fits into the question, but to me, it's very, very powerful.
Thank you so much, Susan. And thank you, everyone. I'm struck by the interconnectivity of all of your work and your dance. I mean, on so many realms, we're, mind, body, spirit, people, community, and future, past, the earth, just interconnectivity has been integral to everything you have shared with us today. And we're so grateful that you have allowed us to witness the ways in which you lean in and open to your own truth and to your inspiration, and become a conduit, and that you share and share with us and inspire us as you do that. And we just can't thank you enough for being here and being part of this discussion about all that is sacred dance. And we know that there's a lot more. And Susan, a special thank you to you for being here on behalf of Rebecca, because she, I don't think she could do what she does, share her joy and her love, without the support of you and your husband and your community. And so a special thank you for that.
She has a very large support circle too.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Exactly. So thank you, Leah, Susan, Diane, Alea, Laura, thank you. And I'm going to now, namaste. I will now turn it back to Wendy.
Right.
Wow. Okay, everybody. Whew, I think there's just so many thoughts bubbling up, ideas, concepts. The image that comes to me is one that I have had always when I think of sacred dance from the beginning. I love kaleidoscopes, love them, and I always have. And when I first went to, met this village, this community, the image for me was a kaleidoscope where you look in it and those colors, they're all, you can't focus on one because they're all stunningly beautiful, the images and the shapes. And then you move it. And it is so awesome when the interactivity, the interaction between, like these panelists, everybody coming from a perspective, but the interactivity and what we see when it all is brought together, to me, is awesome. And so I'm so appreciative. Thank you all. Thank you, Dawn and Mary Lee and Elaine for putting this together. Jessica for having your fingers on everything. To the five panelists, you are awesome people. I'm so delighted that you're in that kaleidoscope. That is, and I know everybody is too. And I am watching the time because that's one of my jobs to do. So before we end the day, a couple of things. You saw the movements that each of them gave, sort of a posture or a movement of some sort. And I'd like to put those together, and I'd like all of us to put them together. So maybe it would be fun if we take the spotlight off and put it on gallery view so we can see everybody for a minute. All the little windows. I call them boxes, and someone to me last night said, no, they're windows. I'm like, oh, I like that. So they're windows, and I'm up in the corner of the window so you can see me. And let's all together look at those 5 movements. So first of all, let's think about what we're doing. We are weaving. Can everybody just weave? This is our loom. We are weaving. We are weaving webs of light. We are weaving webs of light. And those webs come with Leah's move, with her fingers joined together, the thumb and the pointer finger together. And we move to Susan's, where we reach out to the world, we bring it into our heart, and we give that love that Rebecca sends us back out into the world. And Diane bringing us movement from the native tradition. We're like cutting. I'm not sure what this is, but I love this movement. And like smoke going up. And we ended with a grabbing together, the strength that we have in community. And then Laura opened our hands and our hearts one to another, open in blessing of all that we are, individually, collectively, globally, together. And Alea brought us back together, closing our palms and then opening them like a lotus flower opening. And I like to think of this as an empty cup, that we lift up this vessel. And it's empty right now, but pouring into that vessel is peace, harmony, healing, connection, love, and kindness. Open your hands wide and feel all of those elements pouring into your hands, bringing them back together and bringing them into your heart. We are weaving. We are weaving webs of light. So, so beautiful. Thank you all so much for being here. It has been just a delightful morning. We usually end with moving mysteries, but I'm going to not do that at this one. We've ended with this beautiful weaving web. We are moving mysteries. We are all moving mysteries. That is what we are. And the mystery is what brings us together, and the continual exploration and expanding and understanding of what we are and who we are. And I think this panel will morph into what we're calling quarterly conversations, where every 3 months we will bring together a panel of people looking at this conversation, because we heard 5. There are 5,000 different aspects of this thing we call sacred in dance. So I think we want to continue the conversation. So stay tuned for more. Whew. And stay tuned for what's coming up. In just an hour's time, we have the incomparable Daria Halpern from the Tamalpa Institute in California, north of you there, Alia. And she is the daughter of Anna Halpern. Some of you know Anna turned 100 years old in July. She is still with us, but she is fading from the planet. And Daria works very closely and has with her. And one of the things I believe she's going to be offering, I'm praying, during her workshop is a bit of the planetary dance. If you have never done the planetary dance and never heard about the planetary dance, you must. You must. Whether you come today, come to the recorded session that's going to happen later, or look it up and do it some other, you must experience the planetary dance. It's been delightful. I wave at everybody. I love you all, and I am so looking forward to the rest of this weekend and wherever we show up on the planet together. We are a lucky village, I tell you. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.